Previously.
Wow, look at, wow. Just wow.
I couldn't just leave it at that, an Air video without actual air. So here we are, a video with Air, with the Air 2. But first... This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the place to go to for creating your own slick-looking website or online store. And because at that point the lockdown was fully locked and down, I sent out to my friend, considered an essential worker, to test it out. The Mavic Air 2. Although it's been a couple of years, I didn't really expect DJI would be updating the Air. It's not that DJI usually take a long time to update a product, it's just that the Mavic Air doesn't really feel that outdated in terms of tech. It's still a great drone, and even when the Mavic 2 came out, there's still a clear benefit to taking the Air out versus taking the bigger, heavier Mavic 2 Pro out. Yeah, it's a pain shopping for gloves in the winter. After the initial excitement has died down a bit about the Air 2, how are we feeling about it? Buy or no buy? Fly? Or die? Mostly I like the looks of the new Air for the same reason as the Mavic 2, mainly because it looks exactly the same. They made a whole lineup look pretty uniform though. They're all Mavic in name, Mavic in looks. Same livery, different size. Arguably, it doesn't matter what the hell it looks like though, it'll be a dot in the sky, remember? But there are parts of the design that might be bothersome. I mean, what might bother some people that were into the original Airs, that it doesn't pack as small, as light. You can feel the difference, and if the size increase bothers you, then the controller is going to make your brain combust because it's a big boy. Of course it helps that the sticks pack away, but it's an almighty slab of robust plastic goodness. It's a great design, and the battery life is rated at 240 minutes, and the phone holder is far superior to the ones you get on the standard controllers. It's not just a fancy phone holder though, it does hide the aerial bits. Impressive, no? But it's still a big boy, and I guess that will be a bit of a sticking point for some who look to an Air for its airness. For the whole package. That should be your first hurdle. Does this bother you? Does this? No? Then carry on. It is a bigger load, but the features are more heavyweight. It offers more stuff than even the Mavic 2 Pro. 4K 60 is the most noticeable one. It does 1080, 240, but I think having 4K 60 will be much more usable. How often will you require slow motion? I mean, with moving stuff and a drone, even 4K 60 will look no different to 4K 30. I mean, that's probably because from my point of view, I'll mostly be using it for landscapey stuff, which mostly doesn't call for anything more than 60 frames per second. And at 240 frames per second, understandably, the video quality won't look as good as 4K 60, but generally the quality of the 1080 with the Mavic Air 2 isn't all that great. It's an average middle-of-the-road 1080. It lacks a certain crispness and clarity that good HD can have. You can still get cool shots, but drone shots tend to look cool. The 1080 definitely serves to push one to using the 4K. The 4K 60 does look good. 60, 50, 30, 25, 24 all looks pretty fabulous. For a drone that is not considered top of the line, an Air, its airness produces some sweet looking 4K. It's a slightly bigger sensor than the original Air, more megabits per second. It's still 8-bit, which, to be honest, is really quite alright. It's when you compare it to the original Air that you can see the advancements. The 2 is noticeably sharper. It makes the original Air look muddy in comparison. Also, it looks like it suffers from less barrel distortion, and the colours look more accurate. It does feel like they've tweaked the colours though. The greens of the trees in the Air 2 shots are a bit more lush. Whether it's D-Cine-like or the standard colour profile, it doesn't take much colour correction. Well, none here. 4K 60 is a great thing to have. A bit of a surprise that they put in there too, as it's something the Mavic 2 Pro doesn't have, but the difference there is the bigger sensor and 10-bit video and the log in the Mavic 2 Pro, and other bits of course. That's potentially another whole video, but for straight out of drone 4K footage, it's hard to knock the Air 2. But you know, what else? There's all your quick shot stuff for getting stuff to look good without doing much work at all. Then there's the focus track to keep your subject centered. Generally smart stuff for making flying easier, but also safer. But it has APAS 3.0 for better obstacle avoidance than APAS 2 because it's a bigger number by 4 digit. It will create an alternate path around an obstacle so you don't stack your drone in a tree. Maybe I sound a bit blasé about all of this, but I kind of take these things for granted because the tech has been around for some time now, but nonetheless, it's all very clever stuff, and one day we'll not need to do anything. The drone is just going to do everything for us. And I'll take that for granted too, because I'll be busy wondering why nobody's invented an automated bum wiping machine yet. Until then, you'll need to use fingers and some toilet roll, and bear in mind that you can still crash a drone. But this doesn't have sensors on the side, unlike the Mavic 2 Pro, but like the OG Air, so it will still end up in a tree, if you're not careful. Sideways, or anyway, it's still your fault if something happens. Now apparently, according to my buddy, it seems quieter. Don't know if it is in terms of actual decibels or whether it's just less shrill, less mosquito-like, but there you go. Obviously the props are bigger, probably doesn't need to spin at such a high frequency, and will most likely make less of a high-pitched noise as a consequence. Presumably. Either way, the Swans weren't so fussed by a Mavic-style flyby. Previously I did find I had problems flying the Air in strong winds.
Just narrowly missed the GH5 there.
The Air 2 and Air were flown on another day with strong winds ranging from 24 to 36 mph gusts, and although they both ended up struggling a bit to some degree to the point where this happened, the Air 2 code better, if that means anything to you. The Air 2, you could see it struggling in obstacle avoidance switched off apparently, but it could fly. The Air 2 might be chunkier, a bit heavier, but it is more stable, more capable, even when it gets windier. But anyway, 8K Hyperlapse, I'm just going to have to skim through that as there weren't any 8K time-lapses shot. He got a 1080 time-lapse, but you can see how the strong wind affected it. 8K is achieved by getting 4 lots of 12 megapixels each frame with the quad Bayer filter, which is most likely why, I don't actually know for sure, there is a difference in minimum interval time of 6 seconds in 8K and 2 seconds in 1080. That's no 4K Hyperlapse. Don't know why. Anyway, you can't edit each still file because you only get the one completed video with all the still files compiled into one time-lapse hyperlapse video. But this, like the logless video, shows that the Air series is more for straight out of drone stuff instead of for tweakers. Having said that, it does take raw photos. Anyway, going back to the quad Bayer thing again, as well as the 8K Hyperlapse, that's also how 48 megapixel stills are achieved. Does it mean you've got flying Hasselblad X1D? No. You'll get a bit more detail in a 12 megapixel sensor, that is for sure. Is it excruciatingly sharp? Well, would you expect the same from those 48 megapixel smartphones? Probably not. And it's surely the same quad Bayer filter sensor as those. Is the 48 megapixels for some vicious cropping of images and still getting razor sharp details? I wouldn't say so. It does provide for some nice, lower noise, decent dynamic range shots though, especially prevalent from the HDR mode. For the size of the sensor, yes, you can get some pleasing looking images from it, and that's what you should know. Other than that, key bits of information, it's got OcuSync 2.0, which the original Air didn't have, it was just Wi-Fi. Makes it more reliable, less prone to interference, and a range of 10 kilometers, which I can't really imagine many people benefiting from, seeing you're supposed to keep the damn thing within your eyesight. Unless you've got telescopes for eyes. But yeah, I suppose you could take it to the desert and, you know, you're not going to stack it into somebody's head. But even within your eyesight, a lot of people are still capable of slamming into a tree, right? So, should you get this drone? Well, if you don't already have a Mavic Air, the Air 2 makes a lot of sense. The video looks nicer, stills are solid, it's all round better to fly with. If I hadn't already got the Mavic 2 Pro, I'd probably be sold on the 4K 60 and the nice looking stills you get from it. Even though the controller is bigger and the drone itself has beefed up a bit, it is still the best balance of compactness and performance for a consumer drone. Sometimes it's not about burning your credit card to get the most expensive gear to get the best video or images possible, because best doesn't always have a direct correlation to sensor size and stuff like that. The Air 2 has taken a big noticeable step up in video and image quality over the Air, with more capability in the Air over the Air. With that in mind, this is probably currently the best 4K drone performer that you can get for your money. video is sponsored by Squarespace. If you want to set up your own domain, online retail space, or website, it's super simple to get started and make your next move with Squarespace. With an easy to use interface filled with loads of templates and backed up with 24/7 customer service. You can try it out with a 14-day free trial and get 10% off your first order with this link and discount code.